I mean, we have some of it, but I mean, it's just different, not just San Francisco, all over the country. So I don't want to just hate on San Francisco for that. It's just because, yeah, that's why I'm glad I'm not a year younger. Because all the good, if I was, what if I didn't see Solomon Burke? That would have been, my life would not be the same.
That was Lavay Smith of the band Lavay Smith and her Red Hot Skillet Lickers. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. This is part 2 of Chris and Lavay's story. In this podcast, Lavay will finish her thoughts about changes in club ownership. Chris has another story about a business meeting the band had when they were just starting out. Lavay will talk about some characters in the Tenderloin, a show they saw at Slim's, and a Planned Parenthood benefit concert she put on. Finally, Chris will tell you about a special guest they once played for. Then we'll end the episode with a song they performed at Royal Cuckoo Lounge. Here are Chris and Lavay.
Yeah, and they had the corporations, you get 5 corporations buying one club now. That's no fun. You can't party with a corporation. It's like when Sam Connie was in his club, like Chris was telling you at the Coconut Grove, he'd be sitting there big and intimidating everyone, including the customers. And he would just empty the place out, sitting there. And we're like, will somebody get his fucking ass out of here? Somebody get him out of here. So, but like I said, I'll take the mob anytime. At least they had a heart.
Just one other one that comes to mind is there was another guy who I was pretty sure had some kind of connections to mob. Also, this will have to remain unnamed. But he saw that we were doing well, and we were playing in Rico's in North Beach, which was a place that had been there since the 50s. It was owned by the same guy, Enrico Banducci, who started the Hungry Eye, which is where Bill Cosby and Phyllis Diller and Lenny Bruce and all these great comedians kind of got their start at the Hungry Eye. It was part of the 50s San Francisco scene, the beatnik scene and all that stuff. And again, the remnants of all the stuff were around North Beach when we got here. A lot of those writers, you would see Herb Gold, the famous beatnik writer, walking around the neighborhood. The guy who owns City Lights, of course, Ferlinghetti, is still around, which is pretty cool, you should, yeah. But a lot of those, and Lavay was waiting tables at Vesuvio, which was the Jack Kerouac hangout and everything. So that was okay, very cool. So that was kind of part of the scene that we were around in those days when we started, and so we're playing in Rico's every Monday, and we did a very good job for them because Mondays are typically a terrible night, and we actually were drawing people. So the bartender claimed that the reason they survived that first year, which every restaurant has a hard time surviving, was because we were kind of laying it down for them on Mondays. So it became a long-term gig for us. We had a lot of fun. This one guy kind of takes notice relatively early in the run, maybe in the early to mid-'90s, and he says, listen, I really like you guys. He's sitting there, he's a big, heavy-set guy wearing very garish suits and everything, purple suits and things like this, just really a character, He says, I'm going to start up a record label. I'm going to make you guys stars. Okay, well, I've heard that before. And so he says, okay, I want to talk business with you. So he has his driver pull up in a purple Jaguar outside. And he's wearing a purple suit. And we're like, okay, I guess we're going to go to his office or something and talk. This is after the gig, we'll talk business, So we'll give it a shot, we're skeptical, but we'll give it a shot. So what he does is he drives around the block and actually parks right across the street from Enrico's, and he takes us into this strip joint that he owns. Turns out his main businesses are strip joints and firing ranges. Okay. So that makes us even more, yeah. Well, making money off of people's vices, I guess, yeah. Who knows what he did on the side. So he takes us into the strip joint, and he's trying to tell us that he's going to make us stars, and he wants to start this record label. In the meantime, like every once in a while, the manager will come and bring some poor woman who's stripping the club up, and he'll berate them right in front of us, and there's women dancing the bar nude right above us, within feet of us as we're having this conversation. It's just the most surreal place to have a quote unquote business meeting, and obviously, so. Needless to say, after the second time of him berating one of these naked women in front of us, we pretty much decided right then and there we weren't going to do it. And then, of course, the trick is how do you find a sort of gracious way to say no to this guy, So that took a little while longer. But he also, strangely, had a club. And like the guy in the basement, at one point that club was empty, and he just had a big desk in the middle of the club. It was completely empty. And he'd sit there, and there's like three telephones. Yeah, and this is before cell phones were really popular. And the guy had like 3 or 4 phones all around him. He's like picking it just looked like a scene in some Coen Brothers movie or something like very silly. Anyway, these are some of the characters we encountered in the early days of our run. Yeah.
We used to live in the Tenderloin, so like on O'Farrell and Hyde. And we had a lot of very interesting people live in our building with us. Prostitutes, drug dealers, all the best people. It was a good time. We had a good time. We were on the 4th floor. Always a party going on in the Tenderloin. 90s, yeah. One time Chris saw a prostitute, a male, female, whatever. You know what I mean? A transvestite prostitute. Throw a high heel into a guy's car window, break it in the back. Yeah. And one time Chris was working at he was working at the Blue Lamp with a pimp. His name is Fillmore Slim, and he's a guitar player and singer. And Fillmore Slim would be playing up there and then pimping on the breaks. Chris was also telling you, I'll tell you about one night when me and Chris went out to Slim's to see my hero Solomon Burke, my favorite singer. It was 1992 and we were real young, and maybe just 21, I can't remember. And we're just he comes out in a purple sparkly suit, and it was the most amazing feeling. I mean, he is, one of the greatest soul singers ever. But by the end of the night, he pulled me and Chris up on stage with him to sing Proud Mary. And we knew it. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. They know it. Yeah. It was random. No, he didn't know our band. It was at Slim's. That was really, really awesome. And, living in San Francisco is great. Meeting so many amazing people. Like, one of my first shows I put on was Swing for Choice for Planned Parenthood. And Lettucey, who's a famous singer now, one of the greatest singers, like Patti LaBelle says she is the heir to her, throne. And I remember just seeing her for the first time. Like, it must have been what Louis Armstrong was like to see for the first time, because she is so electric. So that was that. And then going to Jack's back on, now it's called the Boom Boom Room. It used to be called Jack's, and they used to have a band called Jackie Ivory Quartet, and he was a great organ player. I think, I'm not sure if he worked with B.B. King. I think that was somebody else, but he worked with a lot of, maybe Junior Walker and the All-Stars. And, those kind of bands. It was an all African-American band, all older, all from from back in the day, all wearing uniforms. That doesn't exist here in San Francisco anymore. All the good music that used to happen in San Francisco.
We played once for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had his staff or whatever put together an entity they called the Saxophone Club. And the Saxophone Club was an effort to get college Democrats involved in the campaign or in the Democratic Party. That's what it was. So they would have events, and they had a big event at the Fairmont. And every muckety-muck in Democratic politics was there. Willie Brown, Barbara Boxer, Feinstein, Pelosi family, the Burton family. Willie Brown. They call it the Burton Brown machine. They were all there, and then of course Hillary and Bill, And I have to say, we were always a little more progressive than the Clintons, but of course we wanted to see them succeed and everything like that. But of course they beat, after 12 years of Republicans, the whole world was relieved that they came in, and there's a lot of excitement. And this was already good, but the funny thing is, our name is Lavay Smith and her Red Hot Skill Lickers. It's a bit of a risque name if you think about it. And the more you think about it, the more risque it becomes. And so they asked us when we did this event for Bill Clinton, can we change? And this was, can you change the name? Because they thought it would be, yes, they thought, and so it had to be Lavay Smith and her Red Hot Jazz Band. And it was only some months, as I recall, or maybe a year before all that scandal broke. So maybe they already knew, and they were trying to tamp down some, But a couple things I remember about them is that I was not like huge fans of them. I supported them, but there were things about them that rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of conservative legislation, etc. They were incredibly charismatic people in person, I have to say, and I'm not like a sucker for that or anything like that. But I was really impressed, like meeting them and shaking their hand. They're basically making love to our whole band with their eyes and all this stuff, and everybody was. Slick Willie said. They said he could pee down your leg and convince you it's raining. But it was a fun event, and at one point we did something which I guess you're just not supposed to do, which is we handed him our CD, and right away some Secret Service guy like runs in and grabs, because
He's so smart.
yeah, Lavay, tell us.
He's so smart. He looked at it, and you know how smart Bill Clinton is. Nothing gets past him. He looked at that CD. Here, will you hold this? He looked at that CD and he said, "Is that really your name?" And what went on in his head was, "I want to fucking kill somebody." I got a man who's always late every time we have a date, but I love him. Yeah, I love him. I'm gonna walk right up to him gay, see if I can make it straight, 'cause I want him. I've got to have him say, is you ain't my baby. Now the way you're acting lately makes me doubt you are still my baby. Now it seems my flame in your heart just gone out. Now a man is a creature that has always been strange. When you're sure of one, you find it's gone and made a change. Is you with my baby? Maybe baby's found somebody who is my baby, still my baby too. Siebert. A man is a creature that has always been strange. When you're sure one, you find it's gone, made a change. Is you with my baby? Maybe baby's found somebody who is my baby. Is my baby, still my baby.
Well, that concludes episode 11, part 2 of Storied San Francisco, our last episode of 2017. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at StoriedSF. We're on Facebook at Storied San Francisco. The website is storiedsf.com, and our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Chris and Lavay have a regular gig at Royal Cuckoo Lounge every Sunday night. The full band, Lavay Smith and her Red Hot Skillet Lickers, plays all around the Bay Area. Check their website, lavaysmith.com, for more information. Thanks for listening, and thanks for helping me get Storied San Francisco off the ground. We'll see you next week. Happy New Year.